Yeah, I'm recording now.
Okay. Very good then. Then I guess we are go. Although the lighting is, I guess I got to be a little closer just for the too hot. Oh, the light's too hot on my beard, but it's not hot enough on my face unless I'm a little closer. That's all right. But looks like the sun is like shining on my shoulder in a very angelic way, I guess. Sure. Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll hit you with the first question.
All
So,
right, sure. Oh no, you want to do the intro? You want to say, "Hello, people. Hello, friends. What's the name of your show?"
it doesn't have a name.
Really?
Yeah, it's just an
Oh
interview.
man. Oh, you should come up. You got to come up with a catchy name. Oh, something like a spear is a great name. Is that your natural name?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, you're like the
We'll call
Spear
it the
Report.
Spear Podcast, I guess.
All right. Or the Spear Report. If you go with the
Spear
Spear
Report.
Report, that
All right.
That sounds like that's pretty powerful. I think
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to tune in the Spear Report. You could see it being um, some show with quite a bit of heft and advertising and stuff. So you never know about these things.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, you got a great Hollywood sounding name, and may as well maximize that and use that to your full advantage for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's choose background effect. I'm gonna try. Oh, I could pretend I'm inside. That's pretty wild. Damn. Well, look at me. I'm all classy. I live in a house. Um, or we could go with the hey, I live in some sort of weird Thomas Kincaid painting from the future or something. Or maybe I'm in some weird animated office. I could be that. That could make total lot of sense. Except the beard, I mean the boot comes and goes, and that's a little weird. Or we're in the lab. Here I am in the lab. Hi, it's me, Vermin Surpeme. We're in the lab. We're doing some sort of weird experiments. We're working over there. You can see the time machine. Things are going really well with that. And this is my office. And obviously, you can see a lot of busy construction in the background. That one looks real nice, too. Except then again, you lose the boot when I lean back. So that's just all right. We'll go back to the blur, see if the blur does that.
Yeah, it
At
works.
least the blur. Or perhaps I'll just skip it and just be outside. Um, we could do that. That's sort of nice. It's a nice day.
All right. So, I'll hit you with this first
Welcome,
question.
friends, to the Spear. Welcome to the Spear Report. You say, welcome to the Spear Report. On today's episode, we have, and then you give me a little
All right.
introduction.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to the Spear Report. Today we have Vermin Supreme, future United States president, advocating for toothbrushing and horses.
Uh, Ponies,
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 sorry,
if you will.
ponies.
Hey, that's all right. It's a common mistake. You'd be surprised at how many people are under the mistaken assumption that ponies grow up to be horses, and that's simply not true. Ponies are their own unique thing. I don't want to say genus, I want to say subspecies, but I don't want to be totally wrong, so I'm not going to say those words. Um, but yeah, it's essentially defined by a horse under 14 hands. So that's a measurement of a horse is the hand, probably based on King George's hand or whatever. But still, ponies most definitely. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do still stand by my pony pledge.
So, Where did you get your start in politics? Where did you start going into politics?
Well, I guess I've always been a little bit political, but just a little bit. As a young person, In high school, I was elected mayor for a day because I got a little political. And when the one day in high school, the entire front line of my high school hockey team, I wasn't a member, was suspended for suspected use of speed during the games. And when that happened, the local newspaper decried it and decided that it was a huge drug problem at the high school. And then they set up like a little police across the canal because we used to all smoke our weed first thing in the morning, and we called ourselves the Canal Club.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would be across from with their binoculars, and then they would call into their friends, the co-workers, fellow police officers, if you will, and they would whip around the corner and then go up to the kid with the red shirt in his pocket, and they would make the arrest. And so they started doing that, and it took 2 or 3 days before um, everybody really was catching on to it. But still, I felt the need to make a public service announcement, and so I made this little cartoon. It was this cartoon, um, you know, pig as a police officer, and it said "Big Pig is watching you" through the binoculars. And of course, back in those days, there were no Kinko shops or Staples, and so I was lucky enough to have a friend who worked as a printer, and he was able to print off 500 copies of this little cartoon flyer, and we put them up around the school, and it was, I guess, that was my first viral political meme. Many years before a meme even was a meme. This was back in '79, and it was people enjoyed it very much. They appeared all over everybody's locker. They were taped up everywhere. When the police went to make their arrest of the daily pot smoker, they came back to find that their police car had been plastered with these flyers
Dang.
taped all over their car. When they arrested the poor kid for smoking weed that day, they searched him and they found one of these flyers folded up in his pocket, and they waved it in front of him and said, "Oh, this is going in your permanent record." And it was pretty funny. I think pretty much everybody liked it. I think the administration sort of, they knew I did it sort of more or less, but they couldn't prove it, and didn't really have much interest in doing so. Um, and so that little bit gave me a little bit of more notoriety. And then later on the year, I was elected mayor for a day,
Wow.
and I was able to appoint different of my different friends of mine to different positions. And I think the most important was when a friend of mine had been arrested by the police for because we were teenagers drinking on the beach or whatever, and they went a little excessive. They smashed his head on the hood of the police car for no real good reason. I mean, he's a freaking kid. He posed no threat. He was definitely maybe a little drunk or whatever, and maybe a little lippy. But I got to appoint him to be the police chief for a day. And so that was funny. And then I got to make some proclamations, and um, I forget exactly what they were, but they were mildly political. But all in all, um, not too overtly political. I wouldn't consider myself an activist. Other than I would do a few political stunts that were sort of art and activism. In 1987, I first ran for, or said I was going to run for office. I pretended that I was going to run for mayor of Baltimore, Maryland. But it wasn't political. What it was really just more of a project, something that I thought would keep me busy. I had come off doing bookings at nightclubs, so I knew a lot of people and felt it would be a fun little thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, really, doing it. Um, and then I left Baltimore, and when I left Baltimore, the reason I left Baltimore was number one, I was pretty much done in Baltimore. My life was going to a little bit of shit, I would say, and I had no real good motivation and needed a change. And at that time, there was a march against nuclear weapons, the Global Peace March for Global Nuclear Disarmament. And it was a march that crossed America. It started in Los Angeles and went to Washington, D.C. And they appeared in a Mother Jones article. And I read this Mother Jones article. It was very interesting. And this article, it inspired me because it talked about this project, these people's vision, and how they were going to put together this huge march with all these vehicles for support. And they were going to do this thing. But the way they made the article sound, it made it sound as if though it had ended or just folded or collapsed in Barstow, California. Which it was partially true, but it wasn't the whole story. And what I did not know is that, yes, the march collapsed under the weight of its own overextended ideas in terms of what they could actually move along. And they essentially went bankrupt, and the creditors went in, and repo people were coming in for all the equipment. But people were committing civil disobedience, preventing the repo people from taking the equipment. And the march apparently continued, unbeknownst to me. And so 2 weeks after I read that article and got a little inspired, my roommates at the time brought home these people who they said, "Hey, Vermin, meet so-and-so. They're with the Great Peace March." And I'm like, "Really?" And so I went down to this Memorial Stadium parking lot and was just amazed to see 5,000 people and all the equipment that they needed to move them down the road. I mean, they had like several semi-trailer trucks that just hauled the marchers' belongings. They were each allowed 2 milk crates of belongings. There was like 3 kitchen trailers preparing food. There was prep trailers. There was giant water trailers. There were school buses that were being used as actual schools because there were so many kids on the march that they had like a K through 12 on one bus and a high school on another bus. And they had like a town hall and information halls and giant tents that they would set up, and everybody got their own tent, and of course the tent and the milk crates were all stamped with the Great Peace March logo, which was one of the reasons why it collapsed in Barstow. They overextended, but nonetheless they had all this stuff, and they had porta potty trucks, fleets of porta potty trucks. They had their own honey bucket trucks, all that stuff. And so I was inspired, and I went to a thrift store and bought a cheap sleeping bag and some clean clothes and joined this march, walked with them to D.C., where there like 3 days of civil disobedience. They were throwing the shoes that they had walked across America, they were throwing them onto the White House lawn. There was symbolic line crossings and arrests. There was concerts. I think I saw Bonnie Raitt for the first time there. And met a bunch of these anarchists and activists, and they want to continue that particular type of activism, the mobile peace march. And so what they did, they found a benefactor, and they were able to buy some of the equipment. They bought like one kitchen truck, one kitchen trailer, a truck to tow it with, an info trailer, a truck to tow it with, a small porta potty truck. I think it had 8 porta potties on it, and a couple of big giant water tanks. And they formed a collective called the Seeds of Peace, and I was convinced that I wanted to join that. I wanted to work with them, and I wanted to do that. I wanted that to be my next move. And so I left Baltimore with a suitcase and joined them in Florida, and walked that march from Kings Bay, Georgia, where they had deployed the Trident D5 multi-warhead first strike missiles in the submarines there, because it's a submarine base. And we walked down to Cape Canaveral, where not only do they do the space program, at the time they were also doing testing of these multi-warhead nuclear weapons warheads. And so I walked down with a number of people, probably several hundred people throughout the march, and then a bunch of people went back country. They trespassed onto the Cape Canaveral in an attempt to disrupt the missile tests successfully a number of times. And then there was a big rally and a big demonstration, and And so I started doing this circuit, and from there we went to another march that was simultaneously happening in Michigan, and that is where I met the woman who I became partners and traveled and lived with and was married to, have been married to for 33 years now,
Oh, good
and
for you.
then and then we started traveling the country. We in a vehicle. We had a cab over camper on her pickup truck, and we did all these big actions at the Nevada nuclear test site back in the early 90s, early 90s, I think mainly,
Mm,
and just traveling the country between Florida and different actions.
that's awesome.
And yeah, it was a pretty wonderful thing. And at the same time, um, we were going to rainbow gatherings. Are you familiar with the rainbow gatherings?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Okay. Well, they are essentially, I don't want to say, I'll say hippie gatherings, but they're a lot more than that. And they've been going on for about 50 years,
Oh,
48 years. In 2 years, it'll be 50 years. And they occur every year in a national forest. And what it is, imagine, if you will, 3 to 5,000 to 10,000 to more thousand people sitting in concentric circles or one big circle in a big meadow in a national forest. And they have cups and they have spoons, and they're chatting and enjoying each other's company, and they're waiting for dinner. And all of a sudden, out from the woods, from the tree line surrounding this giant meadow, um, dozens and dozens of people start appearing carrying 5-gallon buckets of food,
wow.
and they walk as they start and they start walking around, giving people the food. And they came from up to 100 different kitchens in the woods, and this is
Whoa.
in a different national forest every year. And so if they go around, also during this time, town criers and people with information go around the circle, and they tell people, health and safety information and police information and parking information and things of that nature. And also a little parade happens. Musicians go around with the magic hat. And because it is a non-commercial event, because it's free to get in, it's a free assembly. That's what it is.
Mm,
Citizens exercising the First Amendment of assembly, and so you can't buy or sell anything. And so what can you do? You can throw your money in this hat, and so it's a spiritual money laundering, where you throw your money in the hat, and then it magically, spiritually gets transformed, goes into the middle of the circle to the banking council. They count the money. They announce how much money came in. Anybody can join the banking council. All councils are open to anybody. And the next day, the kitchen all sends their representatives to a kitchen council. The kitchen council discusses what any issues that they all might be having. They put together their giant shopping list for all the bulk. They get interface with the supply council. Supply council interfaces with the banking council. They go to town. They come back with all the supplies, get it out to the kitchens, and then that goes over and over again for about 2 weeks in a row every year, with up to 10,000 people. And
wow.
it's a very and there's miles and miles of water pipe because springs are tapped, and there's a huge infrastructure and a million different things that have to happen to make it happen. Vegetables have to be chopped, shitters have to be dug, firewood has to be collected, firewood has to be chopped, fires have to be maintained and kept, stoves and ovens and fire pits have to be built, rocks have to be collected, paths have to be cleared, sites have to be raked. I mean, there's just so much that needs to be done,
Yeah. So
and the only
just a
reason that
huge
it
event.
happens is because people see the need. They see that something needs to happen, and they come together, form a council, and make it happen. And so, by going to these gatherings, because you can pretty much do whatever you want within reason. You can, define what kind of role you want to be. People take on their rainbow names, and there's different themed camps. There's talent shows. There's all sorts of things. And so I spent a bunch of years learning my clown skills. Doing that part, finding out what I could get away with being funny doing. And then I also found out that realized one of the functions that we provide is security for ourselves. That's another layer that we of services that we must provide for ourselves, because we don't hire outside security. So we call ourselves Shante Sina, and essentially it's a little bit of a glorified camp counseling, if you will. but it's also a healthy dose of crisis intervention. Everybody, all participants of the gathering are supposed to practice it. If they see a problem, we're supposed to intervene, and like that. And so I was able to bring a little bit of my humor and clown skills into de-escalating situations. And another one of the services we provide are like escorts to the media to smooth things out between participants who are sometimes a little crotchety about having their picture taken or whatever. And we provide escorts for the police. And so I would find myself spending 8 to 10 hour shifts walking with up to a dozen different police officers, state troopers, or local county or sheriffs or feds or whatever, spending a lot of time with them, warning other people in the gathering that the police are like on their way, hide your drugs, leash your dogs, and things like that, and smoothing out intense situations between participants and the cops. And also, I would spend a lot of time propagandizing the cops, trying to contextualize what they were experiencing, and convince them that their worldview is wrong or whatever. And it prepared me to do a lot of the crowd control, de-escalation, crowd facilitation type of stuff that I do out in the more crazy, politically charged riot worlds and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess that's sort of in a nutshell. That's a little bit of my political history. Of course, I started going up to New Hampshire in 1992, running for president, and of course, because New Hampshire is such a small state, right after the Illinois caucus, every last candidate is there. They all have campaign headquarters. They all have campaign buses. They all have campaign events. They all have staff. They're bouncing around the state. They're all there. And so it's very easy to go up there and hijack some of their events. And there's so much media because it's from all over the world. And so I was able to use that to be able to go up and, up my profile, I guess, or at least, get more media coverage by wearing the boot and promoting the ponies and the zombies and the dental hygiene laws and all of the things that allowed me to reach this level of notoriety, that in turn allowed me to run a more serious campaign for the Libertarian Party nomination this past year, which was a totally different experience because, of course, everything prior was purely satire, purely facetious. But this running for a real nomination was a totally different ballgame. It involved a real campaign staff. It involved real strategic calculations. It involved going to state conventions and debates and being told that I couldn't wear the boot because it wasn't serious enough for their presentation. And there's just so much more involved. It wasn't quite as fun, but it was a very different experience, and it was a natural extension of what I had been doing for so long. So I was able to adapt to it very well, I think.
Yeah. So why did you choose the name Vermin Supreme? Like, where'd you get the idea for that name?
That name predates my political campaign. I started using it right around, I think, the end of 1985. And at that time, I was living in Baltimore. It was sort of we still had a punk rock scene, our indie music scene, and we had a lot of rock and roll kids who were using different stage names. There was a lot of art weirdos. I was traveling in these art circles, and so a lot of the art weirdos were taking on different personas and using different names for different parts of their projects and things of that nature. And so it wasn't unnatural or odd at all for anybody to call themselves anything. I had friends that were named Gaga Drool and the Pope and Dick Hertz and just all these normal people and they use those names in their normal life. And so there was this little blurring. And so at about that time, I think it was when I was doing the bookings and promotions for the nightclubs, that all booking agents, all club owners, all promoters, vermin, and I was going to be the Vermin Supreme. And and that's initially where it started, and it became it was such a useful name in politics because now it's all politicians are vermin, and I am the Vermin Supreme, and it ultimately just became my name, where everybody knew me and nobody used the other name, and I never used the name that I had ever used before, and haven't used it for over 30 years. So Vermin Supreme, ultimately, it's on my driver's license, it's on my passport. Um, just for consistency's sake, for getting on ballots, it was important. Occasionally, I've done a few lawsuits against police departments, so it's always fun to Vermin Supreme versus and that whole thing.
What
And
for?
pardon?
What for?
Uh, for why did I sue them? For false arrest. For false arrest. Just a a handful of times have I been arrested for exercising my First Amendment rights, and in those cases, out on the streets, I was able to sue them. I settled. I wasn't. I guess it wasn't a successful lawsuit, but they did make an offer, and I did take their offer um, against New York and L.A. And at the Rainbow Gatherings, I've been arrested a number of other times, arrested more times at the Rainbow Gathering. But that is such a different environment that I'm often willing to push it a little bit for me to get arrested in order to distract them from being involved in some other movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll come across and like they're harassing somebody, and so I'll step up and just sort of get in the way, and then all their attention comes directed at me, and then yeah, maybe they'll arrest me, but they always let me loose like half a mile down the road. So that's why in that situation it's like it's not really that big of a deal. It's just a funny little thing that we do sometimes.
Hmm. Wait, so when you first started, weren't you elected to a school board?
Um, oh no, no, I in many years I had never been elected
Oh,
anything.
I must be
Not
thinking
at
of
all.
something else. Someone else.
Yes, I try not to. I don't act very locally. I will say that. I have no problems playing on the national field, but when it comes to like, I just don't want to be that famous around my hometown. I just want to be just another guy at the dump,
Mm-hmm.
going about my business. Um, in my local newspaper, yeah, there's been a few things, and I think people do know me from around town. Um, but they're pretty respectful, I think, and appreciate it. They're good neighbors and good peoples, and but I don't like to be too. I wouldn't want to be running for something, and I certainly want to be serving something. Now, I am an at-large member of the psychedelic caucus of the Libertarian Party, and I am a judicial committee member, which actually was indeed an elected position within the Libertarian Party. But that was very, very recently, of course, and not municipal in nature.
Mm-hmm. So, what was the last time you used psychedelics?
Years and years and years.
Oh.
I can't even remember, quite frankly. I mean, I can remember, but it was like 15, 20 years, and before that, it was a number of years. I think the heyday of my use of psychedelics was, probably around high school, college years. And, they did their job. I enjoyed them very much. I enjoyed them recreationally. I enjoyed the alternate reality dimension, time space warps, and crazy visual effects. And things like that, and also the insights that were achieved, which I think helped, me uh, not not be so concerned about what other people think of me, which of course is what a lot of people are worried about, which prevents them from practicing nonconformity. And so I believe that I liked being able to sort of step us out of reality. Like, okay, I'm in reality, and now I'm stepping out over here. It's sort of like stepping through this, the door of perception, or stepping into this parallel dimension, or parallel alternate reality.
Mm-hmm.
And once you realize that you have that ability on some level, um, it helps you understand, or help me come to the realization eventually, that you can impact reality, in given circumstances, in certain situations, especially if you understand the situation as it typically unfolds. If you and I guess I'm thinking specifically of police demonstrator encounters where it's you can pretty much what's going to happen pretty much. I mean, there's a line of cops, there's a line of protesters. Somebody's going to do something. Something's going to happen,
So it's kind of
and
like heightened awareness of your surroundings.
I think so, and in that situation, there's this understanding. It's almost scripted. It's a tit for tat, and if you can short circuit that, you can change it up.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand what they're doing, and you're really paying attention, and especially like when tensions are getting really really intense, and you can break that tension, well, boom. I mean, you've changed the whole dynamic, and how prevented it from getting worse, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, currently things are a little different because things are a little crazy, but there's still a number of situations that remain simply tense and that can be diffused and changed up. Other places and other situations are not so easily magically transformed,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So,
Yeah.
what are some of your plans for your campaign, or things you wish you did this year that you plan to do in the next 4 years?
Well, currently, as we speak, I am seeking the libertarian Senate seat, I'm running for the United States Senate on the Massachusetts ballot, on the Libertarian ballot, because as it turns out, the Libertarian ballot is blank, and so I'm conducting a writing campaign.
Oh.
So that going to keep myself a little busy like that in this election year. I assume people are going to still write me in, as is their right as an American. Of course, during the debate season, during my seeking the nomination for the Libertarian Party nomination, um, I was asked time and time again if I was going to run a general election campaign as an independent against their nominee if it wasn't me, and I assured them that I would not. And so I'm keeping to that pledge, because I try and respect my pledges, and because, of course, I might run in 24, and I don't want to burn that much capital on that. So I imagine I will start my campaign for 24 shortly after the November election. Um, I have now have a institution. It's called Vermin Surpeme Institute. Um, that's a thing. We decided to make an institute. We decided that because we had developed such a team of supporters and people working on the campaign during the election cycle, that we wanted to continue promoting this sort of idea of change through love and compassion and mutual aid and humor and stuff like that. So we are doing that, and that's another way that we are going to be keeping busy, doing our thing. And the campaign sort of never stops.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, many presidents started in legislature or the Senate before they became president.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, no, that is true.
kind of
That is
worked their
true.
way up.
That is true. I mean, my things have always been a little bit different, just because it's a little bit pretend. I mean, don't tell anybody. It's a secret.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all the questions I had for you today. It was great
All
talking
right.
to you.
Oh, well, thank you. Let me promote my book here to your viewers. This is a book. It's called I, Pony, Blueprint for a New America. It is a look at the future. It's a story about the future long after a Vermin Supreme presidency, after everybody has their pony, after zombie power fuels the nation, after the secret dental police have set up checkpoints every couple hundred yards for you and your children's safety. It is a warning from the people of the future to you, the people of their past, your present, that Vermin Supreme is a madman and must be stopped. And that's available at iponybook.com. You can check out my website, verminsupreme2020.com. We got merchandise and stuff. You can check out the Institute, verminsupremeinstitute.org. You can check out our podcast, Let This Podcast Run Your Life. On TikTok for a few more days, I guess. I'm at The Real Vermin Supreme. On Twitter, I'm at Vermin Supreme. On Facebook, I'm Vermin Supreme for President, blue check mark. On Instagram, also Vermin Supreme for President and Vermin Supreme 2020, I think. And I'm sure I'm everywhere else, Reddit, Discord, and you'll just have to find me.
Yeah.
How about that?
Make sure to vote for Vermin if you wish. I think he's got some great points that he brings up. You should check him out, and I think he's worth a look. So, it's been great talking to you.
Thank you. And remember, together, we will ride our ponies into a zombie-powered future. Thanks a lot, kids. Have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.